Hello, hello, hello. So welcome
Hi.
back to welcome back to another YouTube and Facebook Live. I am so excited to have Kaycee Polite here. Kaycee Polite is a clinical social worker, sex therapist based in McKinney, Texas. She has over 18 years of experience in the behavioral health field, and she coined the term pleasure pusher. Ooh. And that just speaks to the magnitude of her passion to help people address sexually distressing issues, to improve their sexual health and well being. And she is always pushing the agenda of experiencing pleasure, sexual health, and the importance of how to communicate sexual needs. And so today we're going to be talking about self pleasure and self defined sexiness. Welcome. I'm
Yeah,
excited to have you, Kaycee.
I am honored to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Okay, I couldn't hear you for a second.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, now I hear you. I can hear you now.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks for having me.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. And hello, Brenda. So, hello, everyone that's joining us. Say hello as you're coming on. As you know, those of you who have been watching my shows know that it's just very informal. You ask whatever questions that you have, and we'll answer. We'll do our best to get to each question or comment. And I've been missing you guys because I've been traveling and I missed a couple of weeks or I missed last week. I don't even remember now. It's been so crazy. But this show is all about really demystifying sexuality, making it more normal. And so this is why I have these lives every week so we can talk about sexuality and just get rid of that taboo. So again, hello, Alex. Hello, Tigo Go. I like that name, Tigo Go 69. And hello, Tara. All right, so Kaycee, before we get
Yes,
into it, like, how did you become a sex therapist? Like, who grows up and say, I want to be a sex therapist? I didn't,
right?
but I love this work now. But
I
how did
know.
you get into that?
Great question. And you're absolutely right. As a little girl, I had no idea that one day I would be talking to people about the most intimate and sensual aspects of their life. Um, I think it's like a cocktail of reasons that I really got into specializing in sex therapy. And one of the biggest things is working in the medical field as a social worker and seeing how much medication impacts your sexual experiences, understanding that a lot of times doctors aren't comfortable talking to their patients about that. And I saw a need in our community, specifically for Black and Brown folks, to have someone that they can come to talk about sex and pleasure in a way that we didn't grow up talking about. So if your doctor's not talking to you about it, if your family hasn't been talking to you about it, and what I learned in fifth grade sexual health class, listen, that didn't tell me much other than reproductive health, but nothing about pleasure and owning my own pleasure and understanding how important that is. And throughout my own sexual journey, it was important for me as I have been in the process of being liberated in so many ways. I want to spread that to other people. I want to impact their life. So that's the long of the short of it.
Okay, beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, and I relate to a lot of what you were saying. Oh, hello, Karina. Says so important to talk to young people.
Yeah.
Yes. It's so important for those parents out there. And I know Karina has a little son, toddler. Hello, Universal Faith. It's so important to talk to the adolescents, to the kids.
Yeah.
I had one sex therapist on who said even like 3, 4 years old,
Yeah.
you know. I kind of thought that was young. I was like, what? At 3, 4 years old? but um, but I think that to the level that they can understand,
Yeah.
yes, because little kids are touching themselves, they
That's
are
right.
exploring, and we don't want to, make them feel embarrassed or ashamed.
Exactly.
So it's so
Yes.
important. And, and like what you were saying, when I went to school, we didn't talk about, I mean, in the
Mhm.
sex ed class, we didn't talk about real
Mhm.
sexuality. It was just, you can get this disease, wear condoms, and
Yeah,
that's it, really.
that's right.
Oh, Karina says my son is 6 and is already having a lot of girl, I'm sorry. I thought your son was a toddler, much older than a toddler.
6.
Time flies. And it's having a lot of body awareness.
Mm.
Yeah, so what do you say to that, Kaycee, like in terms of with kids? I don't know if that's your specialty or not, or if
Mhm,
you work with
mhm.
more adults, but just since this is coming on here,
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on that? Like she says he notices sensation for sure.
yeah.
What have been your experience?
So I think it's important because it's never too early as long as you're speaking to the child's developmental age. But really,
Mhm,
it's about being comfortable in their body. So it's not
mhm,
necessarily that you're talking to them about sex,
mhm,
but you're creating an environment where they can talk openly about what they're experiencing. And you're not meeting that with facial expressions that are like, I don't know what to, right? We as parents have to get that in check before
mhm,
our kids approach us so that they can feel comfortable. So I think it is important at any age to to have that kind of open book and let them know. And if you don't know the answer, you're not sure what to do, you validate them and then you go ask a professional or go to Google University or get a book. You do what you need to do to be educated for your child's age group to figure out what is the best way for me to address whatever questions that they're bringing to me. So it's
mhm.
important. It's very important.
Or contact one of us.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Or contact Kaycee. I am not a sex therapist, so let me just say that. I am a tantric therapist, and there is a difference,
Sure.
And so but as I got into this field of tantra,
Yeah.
I'm studying more and more sex therapy on my own, a lot of self taught. And so I'm almost kind of like becoming a sex therapist, like in
Yeah.
terms of not a sex therapist, but sex educator.
Educating. For sure.
And and I have my master's in psychology, so I am
Mhm.
a psychotherapist, and now I'm just kind of doing that self study.
Yeah,
And I
that's
kind of do want to
great.
go back to school and become a sex
Go
therapist.
for
I'm like,
it. Go
I
for
go to
it.
school so much, I don't study so much. But yeah, yeah. So that is awesome, awesome. And so you coined the term pleasure pusher.
I
Tell us more
did.
about that. Yeah.
Yes. So when I think about my agenda, right, on
Mhm.
my social platforms, I really utilize them to take stigmas away from pleasure and people talking about pleasure. Um, because I was in a phase in my early 20s, particularly and into my 30s, almost being afraid to admit that I was having orgasms
Mhm.
and not talking openly about the pleasure that I was experiencing or the pleasure that I wanted to experience. So I really want to provide a platform for people to talk openly about it. It's time to take the taboo out of sex, right?
Yes.
We can't do that anymore. It's a huge aspect of who we are. And pleasure comes in so many different forms. And I think those conversations need to happen on a daily basis. Just like when you call your girlfriend up and check on her and say, how's your day? How are things going? There's nothing wrong with saying, girl, when was your last orgasm? Right?
Right. Right.
Little things. Or, what's important to you to experience sexually or related to intimacy that might not be sexual, but non-sexual intimacy. There's a lot of pleasure that can happen outside of penetration, a
Hmm.
whole lot, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
And I think so many people just think about pleasure or sex as penetration,
That's right.
but sex is so much
Oh my
more.
goodness. Yes, it is. And I think, and again, I push pleasure as a way to empower people to own their own. Owning your own pleasure means advocating for yourself, not faking
Yeah.
orgasms. Hello, somebody. Let me say that again.
Yeah.
Not faking orgasms,
Someone
right?
needed to hear that.
Yes. That time is over. You're providing this very false sense of enjoyment to protect
Mm-hmm.
the feelings of somebody else. What about
Mm-hmm.
yours? Right? Like,
Exactly.
what's
Exactly.
going on here? So,
Exactly.
I take it really, really seriously to make sure that people understand that they have a birthright to experience
Mm-hmm.
pleasure. And
Yes.
you get in your own way if you don't speak up for it. There's no
Yes.
reason not to. You speak up
Mm-hmm.
on your job, you speak up for Black Lives Matter, you speak up in all these
Mm-hmm.
other areas of life. But what about your sensual self?
Yes, exactly,
Hmm.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to just kind of add on to what you were saying, when women fake orgasms, you're actually
Mhm.
conditioning your body to think that, you're having
Good
orgasms. You're
point.
really not. So, yeah,
Yes.
so then you don't end up. And I used to be one of those. I know so many women did that. And I
Yes,
was
I've
one
done
of
it
them.
too. Yep.
Yes, and just faked it all the time. And since
Yeah.
Tantra, I've learned no, I just can't do that. And the thing is, like you were saying, it's so true that we feel like, okay, we don't want to hurt, our partner's
Yeah.
ego, make him or her feel bad.
Right. Right.
So, but if your partner loves you, they want you to have pleasure. They want you to feel good. And so
Exactly.
communication is just so important.
Yeah.
Communication is just key. And, you know, it's important for us to be able to self pleasure, because the more that we self pleasure or self cultivate, we can then
Yeah.
tell our partner what we enjoy.
Absolutely. And I think self pleasure is one of the foundational aspects of understanding who you are sensually.
Hmm.
However, women in particular, socially, we are not encouraged to do it. We're not supported in doing it. And it comes with a lot of stigma. So there are a
Hmm.
lot of women who are comfortable with their partner touching them, but they're not comfortable even looking at their own vulva, right? But
Yes.
yet we are expecting somebody else to give us pleasure when
Yes.
it has to be exuded from within first
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
fully experience it at its magnitude. There is
Hmm.
no limit to this pleasure thing. Like,
No,
and
no. Yeah.
from the aspect of Tantra, like there's no limit
Hmm.
except for what we
Hmm.
put on ourselves. And
Exactly.
self pleasure is definitely an entry point
Yes.
that does so much for our sensual self. And I
Yeah.
encourage people to do it as often as possible. Because, first of all, it has a lot of health benefits, right? So,
Hmm.
that
Yeah, let's talk
alone,
about those. Let's talk about those health
oh my
benefits.
goodness. I mean, when you think about cardiovascular health, it boosts your
Hmm.
immune system. It's important for your blood flow. And when women are thinking about, wanting to kind of be in the mood when it's time, it takes us a little bit
Hmm.
more time, some of us,
Hmm.
everyone's different, to be warmed up or to be primed up. When you understand what type of touch you need because you've done it
Hmm.
yourself, now you can
Yes.
communicate that to somebody else. You can tell your
Yes.
partners what you need. So there's so many different important things that come from self-pleasure. It's
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you, I'm in one of these groups. I'm in several different groups,
Okay.
where women talk and about different things. So I've seen a lot of women talk about like using lubricant that
Yep.
has THC in it.
Mhm.
So like Biphoria or different brands.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Like using something that may awaken arousal or
Mhm.
lubricant with THC. Do you feel like that's okay to use, or do you think it should be something natural that someone develop and work towards
That's a great
being able to feel
question.
pleasure? Hmm.
So I think that it's no different than putting seasoning salt on your French fries, right?
I like that.
It's
Okay.
a different experience. So it's important for us not to minimize or overly compare our sensual pleasure. It's
Hmm.
important to be able to do it with a dildo, without a dildo, with lube, without lube, right? It's just about
Right.
the variety of the experiences. but it's understanding what you feel you need and what you want to experience. I don't want to eat
Yes.
the same dinner every night. I
Right,
also
right,
don't want to self
exactly.
pleasure the same way. So,
Right.
to answer your question, I think it's important to have variety. So, you should be
Hmm.
self pleasuring in different positions just as
Hmm.
much as you should be self pleasuring using different enhancements. So, I consider a lube
Yes.
that has CBD or THC, anything, whatever it is, tastes like strawberry, I don't care. Whatever it is, it's important to have variety for sure.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I did, I was recently in the States and I just went ahead and bought some of the Foria Awakening. Um, oh, let me scratch that. I probably shouldn't say names, right?
That's
Brand names, I don't know.
okay.
But in all honesty, I bought the CBD brand and I didn't really feel a difference.
Mm.
But I know, and then I put that in the group and one of the ladies said, oh, with the CBD, you don't necessarily feel as much than the lubricant with the THC. So I don't know, but I don't know if it's also because I have a very high sex drive and I do get wet naturally very easily.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that made a difference because I just really wanted to try it and see if
Yeah.
I would feel something different because I've just heard like amazing things.
Yeah.
Um,
And
but I
everyone's body
also
is different, right? So how
true,
your body responds may be very different from someone else. Um, it's no different than, certain stores you like to shop at for your clothes because they fit perfectly, and then other stores it just doesn't fit the same way. Um,
right.
yeah. So I think it's fun to be open to trying different things. I mean, I think that's the important thing that you really bring up. Yeah, maybe it didn't work for you, but you tried
Mhm.
it. You
But I
were
tried it.
open
Yeah.
to that. And we need to
Yes.
be open to those experiences because at the end of the day, what we're communicating to ourselves is that I matter, my pleasure
Mhm.
matters, right? It matters so much that
Yes.
I'm going to invest in something to see how I enjoy the experience.
Mhm.
Self
Mhm.
pleasure, you're creating an experience for yourself. That's what it's
Mhm.
about.
Yes, that's so true. That's
Mhm.
so true. Let me tell you, I had someone else on here who talked about the glass dildos. I went and bought that too.
What
I
did you think of
was
it? I haven't tried
like,
glass before. That's one of the ones I haven't tried.
well, I haven't tried it yet. I haven't tried
Okay.
it yet, but I will let you know once I did. I
Okay.
just bought it and
Okay.
hadn't had a chance to use it
Yeah,
yet.
to use
But
it. Okay.
and then I bought the crystal dildos as well for
Okay.
crystals.
Hmm.
So I'll be trying those as well.
Nice. Very
And I
good.
will definitely let you know if you haven't tried those.
Yes, let
But
me know.
I had someone else who was on and said it just felt much better than a regular dildo because of the
Mm,
pressure, and it takes the heat, like it could turn warm, it could turn cold.
yes.
You can put it in the refrigerator, you can warm it up, and so that makes a difference.
Nice.
So, oh,
That's
Karina
so
says, I love my glass.
nice.
Yes. So she did say something that's really interesting when we were talking earlier
Mhm.
about she used to not fake orgasms exactly, but maybe vocalize and show more pleasure than she was actually feeling. And she had a partner call her out and say, I was making it harder for him to please me because he couldn't tell what was a real reaction or not.
Interesting. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm glad she brought that up because there are multiple ways that we can deceive our partners.
Hmm.
Really, it's a
Hmm.
deception because not only are we not being honest with them, we're in turn not being honest with ourselves.
Right, exactly.
And that's the part that I want us to have that wake up call to say, don't I matter more
Hmm.
than making extra sounds or doing these things to make someone else, putting someone else before us to make
Right.
sure that their ego is okay.
Hmm.
But then you suffer.
Yes.
You suffer in
Yeah.
the end. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not fair to you to suffer, and
Mm-mm.
that's one of the things like when you talk about pleasure, one of the beauties of Tantra is about allowing yourself to explore pleasure and experience pleasure. And
Mhm.
not again, we're sensual beings. We have six
Yes.
senses or
That's
five
right.
senses, whatever you believe in.
Yeah.
So we have those senses and all of those we can experience pleasure.
Yeah.
I experience pleasure from going to the beach and just sitting and having the waves, come on me, or just feeling the breeze the
That's
sun
right.
beating down on me, or
Yeah,
eating a nice, good meal. Look, I love food. Okay,
so
I
do I.
love food.
So do I.
So, yes, I have food gasms all the time because I
Mhm.
just, I savor it, I taste it, I allow my body to experience the different pleasures. And
Yes.
so, we are multi-orgasmic. We're sensual beings, so we can feel pleasures, but we're so used to focusing on just the genitals, just the breasts, the nipples, the lips, and we forget
Yes.
about the rest of our bodies. And so that's why I also like to use the word self-cultivation,
That's
because you're
right.
cultivating your body, you're feeling and you're learning and knowing
Mhm.
what feels really good.
Yeah.
So,
That's a great
oh,
term though,
mhm.
because you're cultivating it through your exploration.
Yes,
And it's giving
yes.
yourself permission to do that. Like
Mhm,
that's what I hope anyone that's listening to this conversation, wherever, whatever part of the world that they're in today, I hope
mhm,
that they come away with it feeling empowered to say that they want to start exploring their
mhm.
sensuality and their sexuality and their body and all their erogenous zones, and
Yes.
being open to having those conversations. It doesn't matter if you're in a relationship or not, or if
Right,
you're dating,
right.
doesn't, none of that matters. But it's really looking yourself in the mirror and having an honest conversation to say,
Mhm.
have I been truthful? And am I open to experience myself in a different way?
Yes. And I'm glad you were saying that when you're talking about the exploration. So one of the things that I do, I have a Patreon account, and on my Patreon, I'm teaching different things within Tantra. So on
That's
Sundays,
great.
it's self-exploration Sundays. So
That's
Sundays, we
great.
really go into that self-exploration. Then Mondays, I do meditation, is Monday meditations. And then Tuesday is Tantric Tuesdays. So, and then during the rest of the week, you get other nice little pluses. But,
Yeah.
that's that staple. So, because it's so important for people to be able to explore, do that
Yes.
self-exploration, to cultivate, that sexual energy. And so that's so important, so
Yeah.
important to
I
them.
love that you're offering that for people to plug in and get connected to that. Um,
Hmm.
because to me, it's more than just self care, right? If they tune
Right.
in with you for mindfulness on a Monday, they are showing themselves love. Like it's
Exactly.
beyond self care, it's beyond,
Yes.
getting my nails done, getting that. I call that maintenance, right? That's
Right.
not really self care necessarily. But when you're showing yourself self love by connecting, right, with
Hmm.
services and support and things that you're doing, that is just, I love it. That's wonderful. I'm so
Yes.
happy that you're offering that.
Yes, thank you. And
Mhm.
that's the thing. There's just so many different avenues that people can do this. I offer that, but this is why I also, each week I'm bringing different people on, because there's different things that I may not offer that you may offer. Or, I'm
Yeah,
also, sharing just these different things so people can um, learn from different people, learn from each other.
for
So,
sure.
you know,
That's great.
yeah. So I know that we have some men as well as women on.
Good.
Um, and we've been talking a lot about women, and I guess we're women, right? And
Sure.
any tips that you have in terms of for men? And I ask that because um, I personally feel like for men, through the tantric point of view, as well as Taoist, the masturbating in of itself is not as necessarily healthy for men, but I think
Mhm.
there is a more positive way for men to masturbate more consciously and using that energy to bring that energy up.
Mm.
Um, Now, so that's my take. So I wanted to hear, what do you take? Because with Tantra and Taoism, each time that you ejaculate, you're losing energy. So
Mm.
for men, they lose
Mhm.
energy through ejaculation, and women lose energy through their menstrual blood cycle.
Mhm.
So there's specific exercises and techniques that we do to reabsorb that energy, to not lose that energy through Tantra
Yes.
and Taoism. Right.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, and I don't know from a sex therapist standpoint, but from that standpoint, you're masturbating, you're coming, and you're also training your body to come a lot quicker.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
I don't know, what is your take on that?
That's such a great point. So from
Mhm,
a sexual dysfunction angle in sex therapy,
mhm,
masturbation can be really helpful for men that might have issues with erectile dysfunction, right?
mhm.
So one of the things that they can practice is masturbating and edging. So they
Yes, edging.
stimulate their penis. You can't see my hands, but I feel like
Mhm.
I'm doing it right now, but you stimulate your penis. um, and bring yourself close to the edge of orgasm, but you don't allow yourself to have it. And then you stop having any type of stimulation to let yourself kind of calm down, and then you build it back up. For some men, it is a great technique to help them manage their erectile dysfunction so that when they are then with
Mm,
partner, they have an opportunity to get erect faster from the stimulation from their partner, the arousal. It's a really great technique. So I think one of the things that we need to think about with masturbation is the goal isn't necessarily climax, right? So
mhm.
sometimes it's just for pleasure. And if you're comfortable doing that with yourself, one of the great things you can do together is mutual masturbation as part of foreplay. So you can watch each other, which can be very arousing for some people. But you're not doing it till completion, not necessarily for the man. The woman might, because we can have multiple orgasms with no issue. Um,
Yeah.
but it's a great way to share
We're so
in that.
lucky.
I know, aren't we? Share in that experience together and to watch each other. But I think that's something that men can do to support their partner if they're with someone with a vagina, is to support them in self pleasure. Because a lot of
Mhm.
times women aren't comfortable doing that in front of their partner because they feel
Right,
like their body is for them. It's not for
right,
themselves, it's for their partner. So I think men
right.
can really carry the torch and support women in being comfortable in their bodies.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. I like that. Can help support, carry the torch.
Carry the
Yes,
torch. Yeah.
yes. So,
Because it's been more acceptable for men to be connected
right.
to their sexuality, unlike
Hmm.
women. We weren't afforded that. So I
Right.
say carry the torch because they have more experience with it. It's more acceptable. So
Hmm.
men now have a responsibility to support women in doing that and not feeling like, as a man, you're responsible for the pleasure that your partner receives. It is truly a partnership. They're not
Yes,
responsible.
yes,
Hmm.
yes, yes. So many times people think that, or want their partner to be responsible for their pleasure,
Yes,
and so yes, it's a partnership. You're equally dancing together,
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Hmm. Yeah, so that's beautiful. And it's interesting. So as I'm hearing you talk, I
Mhm.
see, you know, some commonalities, because similar with tantra, I work with people who have sexual dysfunctions, and we do that similar thing with the edging, for men specifically.
Yeah.
And then we also teach them Kegel exercises, because men can do
Yes,
that
they
as well.
can. Yes.
And
I love,
yes,
that's my favorite it has so many benefits. It's unreal. It's unreal.
yes, it does.
Hmm.
It does.
Hmm.
And so it's important for both men and women to do those exercises.
Yes.
Yes. So, and what do you think about, like, in terms of just, I know you said you like variety, so I guess I already know what you think. But I know a lot of women, I have a lot of women who ask, like, I'm a fan of vibrators, but I have a lot of women
Yes.
who ask, well, will it desensitize my area? Will I no longer be able to enjoy a penis or oral sex? So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's a concern that a lot of women have. And again, it's a false idea that our body was not designed to experience multiple forms of pleasure. So, as long as people understand that they can't expect their experience with a vibrator to be the same as their experience with a person, then they don't need to compare those two.
Right.
You still can experience pleasure. I don't care if you use a vibrator every single day, right? It doesn't substitute for the connection that you receive with a human body.
Right.
It's
So
not this,
true.
yeah, it's not apples to apples in any
Right.
way.
Right.
And so the clitoris with 8,000 nerve endings, it can handle a lot of stimulation, right?
Yes.
It's going to be
So true.
okay. So if
So true.
you can use a vibrator that's on 10 speed, and then later on in the day you can enjoy oral sex, because that's a totally different sensation.
Yes.
You don't
Yes.
expect that sensation to feel the same as a vibrator.
Right. Right.
It's totally different.
So I like that. So it's just changing, not having those expectations.
Right.
Cynthia said, put both together.
Exactly.
And woo, fireworks.
You
Yeah,
better believe it. Yes, I love
I
it.
love it. I love it. So once again, I want to thank people who are coming on. Say hello. If
Yes.
you have any questions, ask. We're here to answer any questions that you may have. So feel free. And so, I wanted to talk about, I know a lot of people, I have people who come in and I talk to them and they're like, oh, I don't feel like I'm sexy. I'm not beautiful. Maybe because they have a bigger body or, overweight, or maybe they're too short, too tall. I don't know, like so many different things. And so, when we were talking about this self-defined pleasure, I was like, that's important, because I think that there's so many women who, self-defined sexiness, can be sexy, but maybe they're not exuding that,
Exuding
because
it.
of
Yeah.
exuding it because of their self-esteem issues, or feeling less than or ugly from whatever childhood issues, or anything.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, I would love to hear you talk about that. I was excited when you brought that up. I was like, oh.
Yeah. Well, I think that part of the journey of discovering who you are sensually is defining your own sexiness. So that starts with really a complete disconnect from social media and social norms and how it has defined and is defining what's sexy, right? So when I say disconnect, I'm not saying you can't be on social media. What I'm saying is pay attention to the way that you're talking to yourself about how the world is defining sexiness, so that you create conversation with yourself to define it for you. You're never going to find it if you compare yourself to what the world dictates as being sexy. You don't want to emulate that. You want to be your own authentic self. So that's the fun part. You get to define sexiness for you. What does that mean for you to feel sexy? And feeling sexy versus appearing sexy, right? I can feel sexy while I'm grocery shopping with sweatpants and a hoodie, right?
Yeah.
So I might not appearance-wise look sexy, but I could feel sexy, right?
Yes.
So I think it's important to understand that for yourself. Stop comparing yourself to other people. They're not you. You are uniquely you, just like your sexiness should be defined by you, not by anybody else, and not even by your partner. Their eyes are not your eyes. How they see you is not necessarily going to be the same way that you see yourself.
Right.
But if you define it, if you exude it, and if they are connected to you as far as your energy and understanding who you are, they're going to see it as well. But society makes sexiness so external. And it's important. It's important that we understand how to do that for ourselves.
Exactly. And the other thing I was thinking of when you were talking about this is that we live in a world of social media. So people are
Yes.
constantly on Instagram and Facebook,
Yes.
and it really affects that self-esteem or that feeling sexy, because you're looking at all these other people, men or women, and
Yeah.
these pictures that they're putting up there and all these likes that they have. So then it makes you feel less than. So you're comparing yourself in this social media world. And then so
Yes.
many people are using filters. So we don't even know how people look anymore, right? Everyone is
Very
using
true.
filters.
Yeah.
And then, and it's interesting because I saw myself getting caught up in this
For
for a
sure.
little bit.
Yeah.
And it's just a natural thing. Like, we want these likes, we want to look good. And
Yeah.
then, maybe I'm a little tired, got circles under my eyes. So then I use the filter.
Yeah.
But I'm like, then I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, I can't allow this to suck me in.
Right.
Then I watched Social Dilemma. I don't know if you saw that. And
I've
that was
heard
really good.
about it. Yeah. I want to take a
Yeah.
watch. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. And after watching that, I actually ended up, it's just so hard because of work, right?
Yeah.
I use social media for work. Like we use
Yeah.
social media for work.
Definitely. Yeah.
But after watching that, it was just like, oh my God. And
Hmm.
I took off my notifications. Like I took off my notifications from Facebook.
Mhm.
Instagram, you can stop your notifications
Yeah.
maximum 8 hours. Because it was like just really sucking me in, where
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, who's responding? Now I gotta respond back. And then it's like, you don't have time to do anything else,
Mm-mm.
and it's
Mm-mm.
and it just really, so especially like my type of work, because I'm not fixed in an office for
Mhm.
8 hours. And so, I have a client here, then I have a break, then another client here, then a break.
Yeah.
And so it's easier for me to get sucked in and
Sure.
be in this social media world.
Yeah.
And so I know that there's a lot of other women and men who go through that same thing, and it really affects them. You're looking at these women and they're like, oh my God, she's beautiful. And I'm not this beautiful. I only have 5 likes. So I'm
Yeah.
not sexy. So
Yeah.
it's so challenging.
No, it really is. And I think we have to understand that it's okay to admire someone else that we see on social media. You can appreciate someone's sexiness,
Yes.
right? But you don't have to use that as a barometer for your own.
Mm-hmm.
Both can coexist. So I can see a beautiful woman and say, oh my gosh, she is so sexy. But it isn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily my sexiness. And my
Right.
goal should not be to match hers. My goal is to understand my own while appreciating hers. Right. So I think that's the part
Yes.
that we need to understand. The two can coexist.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I like what Cynthia put here. In my mama's words, if they don't pay my bills, I don't care. I wear
Mhm.
my 2 piece at the beach like nobody's business.
I know
Oh,
that's
I'm
right. I
sexy.
know that's right. Yes,
Right.
I love
Yes.
it. Yes.
Yes.
Mhm, mhm.
It's so funny. So yeah, my mama didn't say that, but it was funny because after living in Brazil for like 9 years, I started wearing the thong bikinis, like bathing suits, right? Because that's what
Mm,
everybody
that's what
wears.
they
And
do.
yeah, and I love it because you see all shapes and sizes
Oh,
wearing the
that's
thongs, and
great.
they're confident,
Oh,
you
I
know.
love it.
I know. And I started one because I didn't want to stand out. Like, if I'm wearing a regular one, they're gonna be like, where are you from? Like, instant
Sure.
foreigner. So people are gonna be coming trying to sell stuff to me. So I try to blend in as much as possible.
Yes, understood.
And and I just got really comfortable with it. So I don't have any other type of regular bathing suits. And so I go on my family cruise, and I just didn't think about it because I've been here like, so long. Go on a family cruise,
Oh.
and I put on my thong. Oh my God.
Oh, that's
It was
hilarious.
like so hilarious. They were like, oh my God, your nieces and nephews are going to see you
Oh my
in that.
god.
Go put on it, go get a new base. I was like, I don't have another one. I'm like, what's wrong with this? I mean, can we
Right.
can we normalize this? I mean, you know how many kids in Brazil, I was actually at the beach today
Mhm.
earlier, and I see
Mhm.
the little kids. They don't have the thongs on, but they have
Right.
like a shorter cut where a little bit of their butt cheeks are hanging out, just like,
Oh.
and
Yeah.
so definitely a smaller cut than we have in the States, but it's
Right.
normalized. It's not, you don't see anyone like,
Like,
same
what's
thing if you
wrong?
go to nude beach, right? If you go to
Mhm.
nude beach, nobody's like staring you up and acting gross. Everybody's like normal.
Yes.
because they're used to it. And I think that
Yeah.
that's a big thing. We need to normalize. The more that we have these conversations on
That's right.
sexuality and
Yeah.
normalize it, the more we can get rid of the sickness in the mind that causes rape, abuse. It's
Yeah.
all because
Yeah.
we're repressed sexually,
Yeah.
and me wearing a thong should not be such a big deal,
It
you
shouldn't.
know?
No, it shouldn't. And in my mind, while you're talking, I was thinking, I need to buy one and come to Brazil so that
Yes.
I can wear.
Buy one in Brazil.
Yes,
Come to Brazil,
that's
then
what
buy
I'll do. Yes, for
one.
sure.
Yes. So, body parts, also
Mm.
social media and butts and breasts it puts a big emphasis on them.
Yes, that's such a great point. It's almost as if our bodies are sectioned off, right? And
Hmm.
objectified by certain areas. And again, when you
Yeah.
think about the impact that it has on the plastic surgery community, women wanting to modify their body. And, my thought about that is that it's your body. And
Hmm.
so you do whatever you want to do with it and to it. But at the end of the day,
Yes.
have the right intention. Like, really
Hmm.
understand why you're choosing to do something. And that's
Yes.
anything dealing with modification or something you want to do sexually. And maybe you want to try out a new kink and do something different,
Mm.
right? But you want
Hmm.
to think about what is your reason why and
Hmm.
understand that, in that it's not for validation. Because unfortunately, I feel that a lot of people choose to change the way their body looks because they're looking for validation
Hmm.
outside of
Yes.
themselves. Real
Yes. So true.
validation comes from within,
From
but
within.
we are
Yeah.
completely bombarded in our society by images and information. So it makes even the strongest people weak and have moments where it's like an internal conversation. Like, am I okay? How am I?
Hmm.
You have to check in with yourself. And that's
Yes. So
why
true.
I'd love to encourage people on Sundays to take sensual selfies, because
Hmm.
I think it's important to be able to take those for yourself. And it's part of you defining your sensuality. You don't have to be nude,
Yes.
but you can if you want. You can, focus on a certain area of your body. And it's not just to send it to somebody else, it's for your own appreciation. If you send it,
Yes.
it's bonus, but it's for you to look at, to
Hmm. I like
appreciate
that.
you. Yeah.
Hmm. I hope you don't mind if I use that on my self-exploration
Go
Sundays.
for it. I don't own it. I want everybody to do it. Absolutely. I want everybody to do it. Yes.
Awesome, awesome. So let me just say real quick, if you're on and you're enjoying this, give us a like. If you're on YouTube or Facebook,
Yes.
give us that thumbs up. And if
Please.
you're on YouTube, subscribe. If you're enjoying this, subscribe and share
Yeah.
this. More importantly, share this because I want people to be able to get this information, learn from
Hmm.
what Kaycee and I are sharing, and even other people that's making comments in these
Yeah.
sections. So please,
I
please,
love it.
please share, give a like, and hit that subscribe button.
Yes. We have to spread the word that sex should
Yeah,
be talked about openly and not behind closed doors.
exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. And
Hmm.
so, one of the things I was thinking about when you were talking about the sensual selfies, I really, really like that. One of the things I'm very audio. What do you call that? I keep
Auditory?
forgetting English. Auditory. Thank you. I
Yeah.
be forgetting English
That's
words
okay.
that you don't say all the time. I
Yeah.
forget. That's what happens when you live out the country. So I'm very auditory, and so one of the things that I did, I actually recorded an audio of me masturbating and the sounds that I make. I'm very loud,
Excellent.
very loud.
That's great.
So, and I listen to it, and it turns me on.
It's,
So it's
I love
like
it. I love it.
yeah. Yeah. So that's something else you can do. And that's a good way to
Yes,
explore
it
and see what
is.
you like. Maybe you don't even know that you're auditory until you record it and you listen to it
Mhm.
later, you know,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
even record yourself masturbating and watch
Yes.
it,
Yes.
So
I think it's fun
yeah.
to masturbate in front of a mirror. So if you have a
Mm.
floor length mirror, or you sit on the floor or on a chair, but to see your own image,
Hmm.
giving yourself pleasure,
Yes.
it's very empowering. And it's
Yes.
funny, the first time I did it, it was by accident. I was not being super deep and planning to do it.
Hmm.
But I started to do it and happened to look up, and I was like, oh, right. And then I had
Right.
my pleasure, and I thought that was really impactful to be able to see my own image. And it also helped with me creating my understanding of being sexy.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. So we have a
Mm,
question here, Kushan.
yes.
I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. My first live. Thank you. Welcome.
Oh, wonderful.
Welcome. Yes. So she said it's very informative. What are your thoughts on yoni eggs? Is it needed for
Mm,
levels? I'll let you go, and then if you want, then I can go next, or I can go first.
yeah, I'm curious. So I want to hear what your thoughts are.
Oh, okay. So I love yoni eggs. I use yoni eggs. And so we were talking earlier about the importance of doing Kegel exercises. And so the yoni eggs does that same work. So there's a lot of benefits. Like it helps with preventing urinary incontinence. As women are getting older, we have urinary incontinence. It helps prevent bladder prolapse,
Yeah.
uterine prolapse, as well as intestine prolapse. So those are things that can actually fall, drop,
Yeah.
and then it also helps with keeping you moist and lubricated as a woman, and
Mhm.
I like that there are different types of yoni eggs based on what specific work you
You
want to
need.
do.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I like I personally started with jade egg. Jade
Okay.
is very kind of generic in a sense that it does a cleansing and overall energetic cleansing, which is good. But then you have rose quartz, which works on love,
Mhm.
and you have obsidian. Obsidian can be more intense, like if you have trauma or if there's been any sexual abuse. I
Mm.
personally think if you do have abuse, to still not start with obsidian, start with something like jade egg or crystal quartz, which is going to start working on the healing at the whole total energetic level. Then go to the obsidian, because obsidian is very intense, very
Mm.
intense. And I have to say, I personally, I had started with jade egg, and then even when I went to use obsidian, it was intense.
Wow.
So it's like make sure you do that work. You can't, again, like we were talking earlier. You said, Kaycee, everybody's
Mhm.
different. Each body is different.
Yes.
So
Yes.
for one person, it may not be okay, but I've had a lot of women also say the same thing, that is very intense. So I
Okay.
always say, start with jade or the crystal first, and then go
Mhm.
to obsidian. Once you get all of those things out, if you need to work on love and calling in a relationship, then work on the rose quartz. The rose quartz, in my opinion, would come after you did all of that energetic healing and
Mm.
cleansing and
Mm.
release the traumas. Then you can allow that relationship to come in, or even that self-love.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
love it.
That's great. And you've had some really good experience with it. I haven't had any personal experience with it. So I was really
Mhm.
interested to hear your thoughts. I do have clients that use them, and in certain cases,
Mhm.
I definitely recommend them. I
Mhm.
think, as you pointed out, that PC muscle, which is
Mhm.
key to, like you said, the incontinence and the power of our orgasms. The stronger that our PC muscle is, the more intense our orgasms can be. So the yoni
Yes.
egg is a great way to have that experience.
Mhm.
And sometimes what I like to do is use crystals and hold them, over my womb area
Yes,
during
that's it.
meditation. And so it's, for some people, they may not feel comfortable in putting
Mhm.
them inside of their
Yes.
vagina, but there's other things that you can do to
Mhm.
benefit from the energy of the crystal.
Yes. And I
Mhm.
like that you said that, because you reminded me of another thing. So a lot of times women, if you have vaginismus, where
Mhm.
the vagina tightens up and you have pain and you can't
Yeah.
um can't even you can't have penetrative sex. Sometimes it could be to that point.
Yes.
I don't recommend it in the beginning, because you
I
want to
agree.
do a lot of relaxations. You want to
Yes.
train the muscles to relax. And sometimes when you're using the yoni eggs, you're tightening those
Yeah.
muscles. So if you have anything like that with the painful sex already tightening, do a lot of relaxation
Mhm.
type techniques, or like
The
Kaycee said, using the yoni egg and putting it on top of your womb. That works just as well.
yeah.
So definitely in that type of situation, not using the yoni eggs.
Yeah. Great point.
Mhm.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. So Cynthia says, Kaycee, can you talk about your clitorate class? And Renee, what about your Tantra class and Sister Soul Retreat?
Awesome. Well, absolutely.
Mhm.
So I do
We thought
have
you'd never ask.
Yes, so I do have an Own Your Pleasure cliteracy group class that I offer. It's a lot of fun, and you're able to gather your group of friends, and we do it over Zoom. And I share information about the history of the clitoris and how to help liberate your mindset around your body. It is a lot of fun, very engaging. So if anyone who's listening is interested in doing that, feel free to check out my website, or go to my Instagram and click the link in my bio and connect with me. I'd be happy to do that. It's a lot of fun. So, and I just started a new YouTube channel as well. So I got to take some tips from you, because you're doing an awesome
Yes.
job. So
Thank you. Thank you. Well,
yes,
I look forward to being on your YouTube channel.
there you go. All right, let's do it.
That class sounds really good, that cliteracy class. And it's so it's on Zoom. Is it like a set date, or is it just ongoing?
It's ongoing. So I schedule it per
Mhm.
group. So whoever comes to
Okay.
me with their group, then we schedule it that works for everybody. Yep.
Oh, awesome. Okay, I like
Mhm.
that. I like that.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
And so my tantra class, I have a tantra basics breathwork course that's ending next week Monday, but the following Monday, which I think is November 2nd or 4th, I will be
Mhm.
starting the next tantra basics class, which is a sound healing. So it's a
Mhm.
tantra sound healing course, which will actually be incorporating sound healing techniques from Taoism, as well as Tantra. So sound healings to really work on the chakras,
Mhm.
balancing and activating the chakras, as well as sound and movement to heal the different organs, because our organs are connected to different emotions. So for example, the liver is connected to anger and the kidneys is connected to fear. So each of our organs are connected to different emotion. And so as we're healing and doing
Mhm.
these sound, the mantras for each organ, you're releasing those blockages that's within those different emotions.
Yeah,
So that's the next class. It's a 4-week class that begins, I guess that's November 4th, in 2 weeks on a Monday.
that's great.
Um, yeah, and then my Sacred Sister Soul Retreat that Cynthia asked about as well is my yearly retreat that I do in Salvador, Bahia.
Mm,
Normally it's in April, but I missed it this April because of the COVID.
yeah.
So in next year, 2021, I'm going to push it back to July, or actually the end of July, beginning of August. We're going to be doing it. Is 9 days where I bring women of color, people of color, well, women of color, to really connect to Bahia, Salvador, learn about the Afro-Brazilian culture, the food. We go and learn about really the diaspora culture, because it's so
That's
intense.
great.
Salvador is like being in Little Africa. It's actually called Little Africa because you
Wow.
really get that feel. And so one of the things when I moved to Brazil, specifically Salvador, I live in Rio. Rio also has its own little
Mhm.
Africa. Well, I first moved to Salvador, I felt more connected there than I did in the US. Like
Wow.
my
Why do
parents are
you
from
think that
Haiti.
is?
Yeah, I
And
was just about to say
okay,
actually, because it's
okay,
interesting. My family's from Haiti, but
okay.
growing up in the States, we live in this patriarchal society that's kind of like white dominated, right?
Yeah.
And so everything that has to do with culture, with spirituality, is made to seem as wrong. And
Mm,
so I was closed off to my culture, that the Haitian culture, the Haitian religion, all of these different things. And I was just thinking, oh, it's negative. You hear all these negative things about voodoo. And so when I got to Brazil, they were so much more open. I started going to condom lay ceremonies, which is the equivalent of a voodoo ceremony, or Ifa, which is in the U.S. So I started like learning Afro-Brazilian dance, which is just like, it's the same rhythms. It's connecting to the orishas, which are the goddesses, the different deities, the gods and goddesses. Um, in this religion, so I started learning about them and learning more about the culture. And it was like, oh my God, I'm home. And then
That's
even just
great.
feeling that warmness of the people here,
Yeah,
they're just like, hi, how are you? Talkative. And,
that's great.
and it's such a strong connection. And so I decided after living here, I had lived here 5-6 years, and I was like, I have to bring women here of color specifically,
Yeah,
annually. I do other retreats for men and women, and that's open for different people. But the Sacred Sisters is specifically for women of color because we don't get to see other people like us doing this healing work. We don't
that's
get
right.
to connect. I mean, every time that we go to a retreat or we go to a yoga studio, it's mixed with everyone. But how often do we get to meet our tribe of other
Right.
women who look somewhat similar to us, right?
That's
Yeah, because
right.
none of us look exactly the same. But
Yes.
we could also understand, and we can go through and heal each other. And also, as a tantric therapist, I learned that our bodies hold on to trauma and our cellular memory. And
Mhm.
so specifically for people of color, we hold on to even more trauma because of slavery, from being beaten, the women being beaten, as well as raped,
Yeah.
so that stays in our cellular memory. And so through doing the tantric work that I do, we're releasing a lot. We're going really deep and we're releasing these things. But I like to do it also where we can all relate and understand and
Yeah.
process this thing and feel safe,
That's
feel really
wonderful.
safe,
Well, I
So,
can't wait to get the details on that.
yes, it'll be the end of July 2021.
That's great.
So 9 days, 9 days.
That's
So
wonderful.
yes. So this has been good.
Yes,
Thank
I've
you for
enjoyed
everyone
our
who's been coming
conversation.
on. Yeah, those who've asked questions or comments. If you haven't liked yet, give us a like. Do follow both of us on
Yes,
Instagram.
absolutely.
Um, yeah, or on Facebook as well. Um, so Kaycee, do you want to end off with anything? Like, is there any last tips or anything that you want to give about self-defined sexiness, self-pleasure?
Yes, I would recommend. Oh gosh. Okay. There's so many things, but let me just sum it up. So I think the most important thing I want to end with is to appreciate your own voice,
Mm-hmm.
right? To listen to your voice, to use it to advocate for yourself. And don't be ashamed to pleasure yourself, embrace it fully, use your voice, and not just to speak, but to let sound come out as you're
Mm-hmm.
experiencing pleasure. Don't be
Yes.
afraid for your neighbors to hear you moaning, right?
Yes.
Um, because you have the right to experience that. Like, I can't stress that enough. And
Yes.
if you're someone who's been self-pleasuring for a long time, I say kudos to you. And now it's time to change things up. So do it in a
Yes.
different position, do it in a different room, use something different, like take it to the next level. And as
Yes.
always, use affirmations to start your day, to reflect back to yourself who you want to be as a sensual person. So I will end
Yes.
with that.
Awesome. I like that. So real
Yeah.
quick, we have one last question.
Yes. Okay.
Nikki Nicole. Says greetings, first live as well. Thank you,
Yay.
Nikki. Welcome. I'm very new to this in its entirety. How does one address emotional detachment when it comes to sex, including mates as well as yourself?
Ooh,
That's a deep
that's
one to end with.
that's a deep one. So I just want to confirm that I understand what Nikki is asking. So Are you saying how do you address it if you are personally emotionally detached during sex? Because I think it's important to note that
Mhm.
you can have sex based on a sexual connection with someone and not be emotionally connected to them.
Mhm.
Now, if you are in a relationship where you desire both, which I'm assuming that might be what Nikki is saying,
Mhm.
the way to address the emotional detachment, of course, is to identify what emotion is missing, how long has
Mhm.
it been missing, and start to have a conversation about it with your
Yeah.
partner or partners,
Yeah.
so that you can understand where does the detachment lie, and
Mhm.
what does that mean to you, and what is
Mhm.
it that you need. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the short
I like
answer.
that. Yeah, that's a great answer. I really like that. And I'll just say for me, I'm very kind of like, it depends on the day and the mood and what I'm feeling.
Right.
Um, there's times where when I'm in a relationship, that emotional attachment is important, and we have that intimacy and that connection, and I love it. It's great. It's beautiful. That's what I want most of the times.
Mhm.
Um, but then there's other times when I'm like, I just want to fuck.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
it's like, hey, he's sexy, he's fine. I
Yeah.
want to fuck. There's
Yeah.
times I want him to blow my brains out, my back out,
Sure.
blow my
Yes.
black out. Then there's
Yes.
other times. So it just really depends on where I'm at in that given moment. Um,
Sure.
so if I'm feeling like right now I want an emotional piece, then I'm gonna manifest and put that into the air to find someone
Right.
that is also able to give me that emotional piece that I want, that intimacy, that connection. Looking into each other's eyes, sharing different things, talking about different
Right.
things.
Right.
But if I'm just more in my primal time and I just want to have
Mhm.
fun, then I don't need to do all of that, and I
Mhm.
don't need him to
Mhm.
do all of that. So,
Mhm.
you know.
Good. Well, thanks for asking
Yeah.
that, Nikki.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So, Nikki, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, hit that thumbs up. And I also want to say, I always forget to say this, hit that notification bell, because the notification bell is what will help you to remember that these are coming up. So when you
Perfect.
hit that, it'll send you a reminder the live is coming on. That way you don't miss these great talks. So thank you so much, Kaycee, for coming
Yes, my
on.
pleasure. My pleasure.
This was
Thank you.
great. Yes.
Yes.
So connect with Kaycee. Again, check out her cliteracy class. You can find her on K_spot_therapy on Instagram, or on her website www.kcpolite.com.
Thank
And
you.
connect with me as well. My Facebook and Twitter is Renee Adolph. Renee and Adolph Adolphe. But I do have to say, if you're sending a request, please send a message first, because I don't just accept anybody's. Just say you saw me on YouTube, you want to stay connected, and I will accept. Um, you can find me on Instagram at prandata_prim_tantra, and again, Patreon/PrandataPrim.com. So my website is www.PrandataPrim.com. So connect with me. Check out my upcoming Tantra Sound Healing course. I'm going to be having the Sacred Sisters Soul Retreat as well. And
Yay.
check out Kaycee's Cliteracy course. So thank you again. Thank you,
Yes,
everyone.
you're
This is great.
welcome. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right. So good night, everyone.
Yes, good night. Go have some pleasure.
Yes. Having difficulty in the live. I hit in live and it's still going on. So